Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I'm recording this on September 30th. We're going to be going over a little bit of the market, financial markets, give you my opinion about what's going on, and we're going to go over what's been happening in the Middle East. A lot of activity has been happening over the weekend with Israel bombing Lebanon and Yemen, and also Hamas. So let's go. We're going to go over a video by Fox, and then I'll also play some videos from Bloomberg. Before I do that, please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. I also have ways where you can follow me on X and on GETTR. I actually have 2 Twitter feeds. Or not Twitter, or X feeds, and I have 1 feed for GETTR. So please subscribe to all those. If you could, please help support my work by donating. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee on the bottom of the homepage. Or you can be a paid member on my Patreon channel. Higher tiered members on Patreon do get access to some of my lectures on pulmonology and immunology. I also have great products, all right? You can buy the products on my store individually or in these anti-aging boxes, all right? But one of the boxes is called the anti-aging beginners box. If someone was just wanting to start out getting healthy and, you know, what should they do? One of those boxes would be a great place to start. Now, again, you can buy the anti-aging boxes. You get a little bit of a discount when you buy the boxes, or you can buy individual products on my store. I have lots of products to help boost up your immune system, help with cardiovascular health, help with neuroprotection, slow down the aging process, boost up the immune system, increase energy, improve your skin. I have lots of anti-aging boxes and lots of products. So with the anti-aging beginners box, what you get is the structural nano silver liquid. Take a teaspoon of it a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds or so, swallow, and that will maintain the mucosal barrier and neutralize pathogens. D3 helps you get cells to go into apoptosis. Also, it is a gene expression cofactor, very important for cellular processes. And D3 helps to absorb calcium. And then you get your choice of extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, or avocado oil in the 2-ounce bottle for C60. C60 is a very strong antioxidant that soaks up free radicals, that helps to reduce the stress in the cell so the cell works properly, and it helps to boost up the mitochondrial health. When the health of the mitochondria is improved in your cells, then you have more ATP and you have more energy for the cellular processes, but also for you to be moving around. And neurons need lots of ATP, lots of mitochondria. So C60 helps with boosting up that energy level. So again, what's in the anti-aging beginners box is the structural nano silver liquid, the D3 and the C60. And the C60 is a very potent antioxidant. You should be taking it every day. Take a teaspoon of it a day. So it's a great buy. You can buy the products individually. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the anti-aging beginners box. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Fox News.
Off the mat.
Hamas says Israel killed one of their leaders in an overnight airstrike in Lebanon and 3 other Palestinian leaders in Beirut.
Nate Foy live in Tel Aviv with the details. Nate. Hey guys, good morning. Israeli airstrikes continue inflicting serious damage on several terrorist organizations, not only Hezbollah, but you mentioned also a Hamas leader taken out overnight in Lebanon along with his family, as well as 3 Palestinian militants from a separate organization in central Beirut, an area that had not been hit to this point of the conflict. Take a look at the damage here from Beirut. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine is the group that the 3 militants belong to. They say the strike hit the upper floor of an apartment building, but another strike from Israel sent an even bigger message yesterday. Take a look at this. Israel hit Yemen's port city of Hodeidah. This is retaliation after Yemen's Houthi rebels fired 2 missiles at Tel Aviv last week. Israel hit its target from over 1,100 miles away. That's roughly the same distance from Israel to Iran. Israeli leaders said after the strike it brings a clear message about Israel's capabilities. Meanwhile, Iran is reportedly helping Hezbollah select new leadership after an Israeli airstrike killed Hassan Nasrallah and 20 other terrorists on Friday. Iran's parliament met yesterday chanting death to Israel, and here I am, Nasrallah. Now, we are still waiting.
This is the reason why on the previous video that I did, I think it's episode 75. I'm going to double check. I think it's episode 75. Episode 75, I talk about, so please go watch that if you haven't seen it. I talk about how the Ribby warned Israel what not to do in terms of in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and into the future. And because Israel didn't listen to the Ribby, all right, we are in the situation we're in. Now, what's happening is that Netanyahu was the one that was warned. All right, that's the interesting part of it about this. Netanyahu is trying to take the lessons learned from not listening to the Ribby back in the 80s, and taking the lessons learned from the 2006 war in Lebanon and the failure of Israel to make this a successful campaign. All right. And what the Ribby said was basically, I'm paraphrasing it, but basically, don't worry about what the UN has to say. Go in and absolutely destroy the enemy. And that this will be a 7-front war. Now, what he was saying was so prophetic. If you don't do this, these are the things that are going to happen. All right, you're going to have nations that are going to be trying to put pressure on you to not do things, and you're going to lose ground, and it's going to get worse. So, okay. So Israel is changing their tactic. All right, and that's basically, they don't care what the UN has to say, and they're basically saying, thank you very much, United States, for telling us, you know, what your opinion is, but this is what we're doing, which is the proper way to get this thing done. Now, this is going to be an all-out war in the Middle East. It's going to involve multiple fronts, and it's going to involve Iran. All right. Now, right here, Iran helping Hezbollah choose new leader. Well, I thought Iran didn't have that much control of Hezbollah, that it was somewhat its own rogue unit, but they fund it a little bit. So there seems to be a lot more coordination with Iran and Hezbollah. And this is why it is so important to decapitate the Ayatollah from Iran and destroy the nuclear capability. Now, the United States is too afraid to do it. And the Ribby warned, don't be afraid because it will get worse. Don't be afraid. You can do all the war planning, but if you do it for the right reasons, things will just fall into place because God lets it happen. If you do it for the wrong reasons and you do all this military planning and you think you got it all right, and and the battlefield is in your favor, God may say, you know what? I'm not going to allow it to happen, and bad things happen. So you got to have the right mindset for the right reasons, and there will be a blessing. You do it the wrong way, there will be a curse. Now, let's talk about the curse. We've been hearing in the UN about how different nations are telling Israel that they should be a ceasefire and all this, but a ceasefire will only reconstitute Hamas, only reconstitute Hezbollah, only give more time to Iran to go nuclear, only to battle harden and build up more capability with the Houthis. Now, again, the weird dynamic here is Yemen and Saudi Arabia are not friendly. All right, Saudi Arabia doesn't like Yemen. Saudi Arabia is aligning with Israel. Ishmael and Isaac are aligning together with their soul roots, which was predicted in the Zohar. So it seems to me that when a nation like the United States keeps on saying ceasefire, let peace, give peace a chance, it'll calm things down, that's only going to make it worse down the road. And so there's a curse that comes down on the country. And so we had this huge flood that took place in Tennessee and North Carolina. You've seen the pictures. It's a disaster. It's a major disaster, all right? With chemical plants blowing up. We have a lot of things that are happening to this country where if you use the lens of the Zohar, if you use the lens of the metaphysical, it seems as though we are in a multiple year, multiple plague situation because we keep on doing the wrong thing. Now, Israel is gaining ground on the battlefield in multiple fronts. All right. Now, that doesn't mean it will be continually like that. And the Rebbe mentioned, don't be hubris. When you start winning, don't be hubris, because then a curse will come down. Same thing. We had a curse that came down on the United States when we had hubris because of the fall of the Berlin Wall. We had hubris when it only took 100 hours with Desert Storm. We had hubris growing NATO and pushing it to the front door of Russia. And now we have the problem that we have in the European theater with Putin and with Zelensky. We had hubris right after 9/11 and had this big war plan to be able to destroy the Ark of Terror, as Netanyahu calls it, where we were going to take out Iraq, take out Afghanistan, take out Iran, take out Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, and Lebanon. That didn't happen too well. There was a hubris with the United States. So the United States needs to get back, defend our interests, realize that just because you have all the technology, that doesn't mean that you're going to win on the battlefield. And I would say that we've invested way too much on SEAL teams, special operations type stuff. You don't win wars with special ops. You win wars with mechanized divisions. You win wars with making sure you have enough ships in the ocean. Not, Jocko, the SEAL team guy. You don't win wars that way. So we've invested all this money in these special operation teams, and they don't win wars. They may start wars. They may, cause havoc, may be able to do some sort of strategic operation, but it doesn't win wars. That's why we lost Afghanistan. That's why we lost Iraq. That's why we didn't get anything done in Syria. So, there's a hubris that's happening in the United States that the Rebbe warned about. Don't be hubris when you do win, right? We won the Cold War, but lost the post-Cold War, or losing the post-Cold War. And now, because we thought we, had this special privilege in economics, because we were the risk-free rate and everyone was trading in dollars. So we felt that we can just outsource our jobs to China for cheap products, only to build them up to the point where we're going to be going to war probably this decade, maybe even next year with China. Thank you very much, America and Walmart. So people need to wake up. Don't be hubris. Get the job done so there can be lasting peace. And don't be afraid. Now, in the context of the Middle East, it's knocking out Hezbollah, knocking out Hamas, decapitating the Ayatollah, and destroying the nuclear capability of Iran. And then the international community needs to come in and help rebuild Gaza, help rebuild Lebanon, help establish a democracy in Iran. That's going to build lasting peace. But on a metaphysical level, Esau needs to split. Esau needs to realize, oh, it's been going in the wrong direction, and that it's going to repent. And this split will be Esau positive and Esau negative. Esau negative stays with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, the Ark of Terror. All right. Esau positive aligns with Jacob and Ishmael, where there is this ark, the Ark of Blessing, as Netanyahu describes this. All right. But there's a Zohar metaphysical thing that is happening. So as long as Israel and the United States is not afraid, there's going to be a major blessing. But if the United States and Israel is afraid, there's going to be a major curse that happens to the country. So it's a test. You have a free will. Do you want a blessing or do you want a curse? Now, there's an awful lot of people in the United States that are pacifists when it comes to the Middle East. Don't be surprised that more curse will happen to the land, to the economics, and to your own well-being, because that's exactly what's happening. Don't be afraid. Kill the enemy. There is an evilness in Esau negative that has to be killed, because on a metaphysical level, I know you probably won't fully understand what I'm saying, but Satan needs the soul root of Esau to survive. If you kill off Esau negative, the soul root of Satan is gone. The energy source is gone, and it dies, and that's where the Messianic age happens. Now, that's a metaphysical description of why this battle is taking place on this plane. All right. Now, there were some comments on a previous video that I did that I will expound on after I play finish this video, which is important because it's not just the events in the Middle East. It's not just the pacifism that is happening in the United States. It's not just the pacifism that's happening with, maybe half of the nation in Israel, because there's an awful lot of ultra liberals that don't want to get the job done. All right. It's also tied to Europe. It's also tied to Asia. And there was an event that took place on September 24th, New York time, that is a pernicious inflection point that will lead to further conflict in the world. But don't be afraid. It's coming, but it's not something that you should be afraid of. If you're afraid, you're going to be cursed. If you're not afraid, you will be blessed. Don't be afraid on what's coming. All right. But I'll expand on that after this video because I went off on a tangent here.
Iran after Nasrallah's killing, but there are reports, interestingly, that small groups of Israelis.
I don't understand why there's so much.
Special forces are making small incursions into Lebanon to gather intelligence ahead of a possible ground invasion. Hezbollah's deputy chief just spoke moments ago. He said if that happens, Hezbollah is ready for it. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Nate Foy, live for us in Tel Aviv. Nate, thank you so much. Let's bring in former senior advisor to Donald Trump's ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone. Rabbi, good morning to you. Just want to get your thoughts, big picture, on what has transpired over an extremely short period of time where Israel has decimated the command structure of Hezbollah.
All right. I'm going to go off on a tangent again because this is PNN and I can do whatever the hell I want. All right, guys, when you have a wide collar, all right, make sure you don't wear a thin tie. Wear a thicker tie and tie it with either a, a half Windsor or full Windsor knot. All right. He tied it correctly. But if you look around, guys are buying wide collars and they're wearing thin ties and they're doing simple knots. So it doesn't even look right. So guys, pay attention to the details. All right. Okay.
Taking out their leader of 30 years and just about everybody serving under him. What does this mean for Israel in the war moving forward?
Well, let's understand for one moment that Hezbollah is the attack dog of Iran. And one of the reasons that the moderate Arab states, Israel and the United States of America, have approached Iran with such kid gloves is because of the fear of the havoc that Hezbollah could wreak, not only on Israel, but on the rest of the moderate Arab Israeli states. In a matter of 12 days, Israel has decimated the command and control structure of Hezbollah, shifting the entire momentum, not just since October 7th, but of the entire Middle East. This is like a football game where you're down a couple of scores, you hit 2 touchdowns. What's the coach going to call next?
Yeah, well, now Iran has vowed to retaliate. So where is your level of concern when it comes to that and your thoughts on a potential direct strike on Israel from Iran?
Well, on April 13th, Iran issued a direct strike against Israel, and the United States of America, together with Israel and other moderate Arab allies, were able to defend against that attack. Now is the moment for the President of the United States of America to tell Iran, hey, we saw what happened last time. There's not a second chance for this. If you strike, there will not be an Iranian nuclear program. There will not be an Iranian oil-producing port. And if they're able to deliver that message, Iran will not strike. They are losing their number one attack dog, and they are on their heels right now. You cannot let them get up and begin to assert themselves offensively again.
Well, on that note, there is, of course, a presidential election taking place, and Axios is reporting that Kamala Harris intends to stick to the Biden foreign policy game plan, writing, Harris will confront multiple hot wars around the globe if she wins in November and has shown little daylight between herself and Biden on foreign affairs, except for an occasional nod towards those protesting Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza. Harris might not keep all of Biden's foreign policy personnel and views if she's elected, but she's mostly signaling continuity, at least for now. So what do you think about that? It sounds like at best Kamala Harris would be similar to Joe Biden when it comes to the war in Gaza and Middle East strategy overall. At worst, she could be making those nods towards pro-Palestinian supporters even more than the current administration is right now.
Yeah, let's be very clear. Both of the hot wars going on, both in Europe and the Middle East, are President Biden's hot wars. It's his weakness and his feckless relationship to our allies and our close friends that allowed the wars to be able to occur. Harris will make this substantially worse. President Trump brought us peace throughout the Middle East, and Biden has brought us the images that you see on the screen. The only difference between Biden and Harris is, to me, it's unclear who Harris would be rooting for in these wars. Israel has taken the offensive against these horrendous terrorists who are guilty of killing Americans. Let's not forget about the Marines in Lebanon in the 80s that have finally been avenged nearly 40 years later. Israel has done that. Israel has the ability to put Iran on its back foot after Harris has put them off the mat. Let's hope that we're able to help Israel continue and finish the war.
Yeah, and their back foot is exactly where they should be. Rabbi Aryeh Lightstone, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you, talk to you as always.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
All right. Here we go. Talking about special forces. Here we go. Let's CNN.
If you want to stop the hunger in the world, stop scrolling. Right now in North Gaza, children are going to bed hungry every night. The recent CNN has learned of cross-border commando raids by Israel
into Lebanon, into the southern part of the country. These raids back and forth could be a sign that a larger ground invasion could be coming. Obviously, there have been airstrikes on Beirut for days now. Let's get right to CNN Chief National Security Analyst and anchor Jim Sciutto, who is in Tel Aviv. Jim, these raids, what do they show and what do they tell us?
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen this, so we're going to watch it together. But not too long ago, maybe 2 days ago, Scott Ritter was saying that Hezbollah was going to decimate Israel. And that if Israel gets into Lebanon, it's going to be another 2006 war. Scott Ritter doesn't understand what the Rebbe told Netanyahu in 1980s. I think it was 1984. All right? What to do. The Rebbe saw that if certain things didn't happen, we would be where we're at today. All right? And Netanyahu is taking a page right from the warning. Trust me on this. All right? Scott Ritter doesn't understand that when they went into 2006, that there were a lot different dynamics. One, there wasn't that much of a will to do it. The international community, was hamstringing the Israelis and the IDF. Drone warfare didn't exist. The intelligence apparatus of Unit 8200 is way better. The whole national security state and the surveillance technologies, way better. The tracking and tracing and satellite imaging, way better. And they just knocked out all of their command and control with walkie-talkie explosions and pagers. I think this is a little different, Scott. I'm pretty sure that this is a little different than 2006. I'm telling you, you can't just go, well, they failed in 2006, which they did, to assume that they will fail this time. If anything, through lessons learned, they probably will succeed. And I'll tell you, it's two things. Don't be afraid and stop listening to the international community and just get the job done. And there will be world peace and prosperity. And there's an alignment between Ishmael and Jacob. That didn't happen in 2006, Scott.
And you can call these shaping operations, smaller special forces raids, as well as just the barrage of airstrikes that we've seen over the last several days, not just taking out Hezbollah leadership, but going after firing positions, missile launch sites, missile and rocket storage sites in southern Lebanon, would all be part of laying the groundwork for a broader
no shit, Sherlock.
incursion or small-scale invasion, whatever language you use. So one can say that those operations have already begun. And keep in mind what the Israeli goal here is, as stated publicly. We're not guessing about this. Israel's goal, as officials have described, is to move Hezbollah back from the border. And to do that, they seem to be making it clear they don't just intend to do damage to Hezbollah forces along the border, but push them back. The typical dividing line is the Litani River, about 10 miles back from the border. So that when you have the Israeli defense minister go speak to Israeli forces now massing on the northern border and use this phrase, we will employ all the capabilities at our disposal, that's quite clear public signaling about what may very well be the next step. And I think you could see these special operations raids, as well as the bombing and the strikes we've seen in recent days, as part of that same ground operation.
Jim, what is now known about Hezbollah as it is currently constituted, their will and ability to carry out retaliation?
You know what, John? I think to some degree in recent days and weeks, if you go back, for instance, to the pager attack, as well as the killing on Friday of Nasrallah, We've seen something of a piercing of the bubble of Hezbollah's military capabilities. As advertised, this was Iran's strongest proxy weapon in the Middle East and against Israel.
Scott Ritter a couple days ago said that wasn't going to happen. Scott Ritter doesn't think that Israel can actually get the job done in Lebanon. As long as they don't fear, and as long as they don't listen to the international community, they will win. And oh, by the way, the Ribby said that in 1984. Now, who do you think is a little smarter, Scott Ritter or the Ribby? I'm pretty sure the Ribby is a little smarter than Scott Ritter.
Strongest piece of that ring of fire around Israel. We talked to great length about the many tens of thousands of missiles and rockets, etc. But now, in just a few days' time, Israel has not only dismantled its leadership right up to the very top, but it's taken out a lot of those very missiles, which raises questions as to whether, even if a decision were made by Hezbollah to carry out a sizable retaliation, who would make that decision and how would they communicate that to field commanders to then carry it out? It's not clear that they have the capability to do that. And I don't mean to underestimate Hezbollah's remaining arsenal or the threat, but the blow that Israel has struck in recent days really raises questions as to what they're capable of. And we should also keep in mind,
don't be hubris. Israel followed the direction of the Ribby back in 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. All right. He told them what to do when you're in this kind of situation, and they finally listened. All right. And it's working. Israel, don't be hubris. The United States, support. Don't be hubris. Focus on the main objective, which is cutting the head off, literally, of the Ayatollah and stopping the nuclear development and allowing for democracy to flourish in Iran. That's the focus. And as long as the United States and Israel isn't hubris and says and focuses on the idea that God allowed it to happen, because Israel could have done all this infiltration, made these, tactical moves and booby traps and all this stuff. But God may have said, you know what, you're too hubris, you think you know it all, and I'm not going to let you do it. And so it doesn't work. So we need to focus. Don't be fearful. Stop listening to the international community with kicking the can down the road, because it doesn't work and it only causes more damage and destruction, and it's more costly. And don't be hubris. And Israel and the United States is going to be blessed. You've heard Donald Trump say, we're going to be winning and winning and winning, and you're going to be winning so much, you're just you don't know what to do. All right, something's very similar. All right, there's going to be a blessing that comes down. But if we are hubris or we're afraid to knock out Iran, there's going to be a curse. You're seeing it in real time. Things that seemed to be almost impossible 2 weeks ago literally changed on a dime. Just like, boom. Now, how do you think that really works? Do you think it's Mossad and Unit 8200 and Netanyahu? No. It's determination, not being fearful, and a blessing.
Iran's public comments, which has been to say, we're kind of leaving this to Hezbollah to retaliate. We're effectively sitting this one out, not to minimize Iran's own capabilities, but at least from the public messaging standpoint, they seem to be keeping their powder dry as well.
It is something that absolutely bears watching. Is Hezbollah on its heels as much as it seems?
Because they want to.
At least from
they want to calm it down.
It's great to have you.
The Iranians are smart. Iranians are smart. The Iranians that I have met in grad school, extremely intelligent. Extremely intelligent. All right? My organic chemistry professor at Fordham was, I happen to be wearing a Fordham shirt, just serendipitously. Iranian, escaped, that fled Iran with his family when he was young during that whole Iraq-Iranian war, and ends up in the United States, goes to Fordham for undergrad, ends up going to MIT for his Ph.D. in chemistry. And my understanding is that he's the first MIT Ph.D. grad from Fordham. So, but super smart guy. All right. Everyone that I've known in grad school that was Iranian, male or female, was extremely intelligent. They're not dumb people. All right. But there's a part of that country that is held down because of a theocracy. And the country can flourish if democracy is allowed. So you got to cut the head off of the theocracy. And that's what the United States and Israel's mission in life is. Because if we fail, they get nukes. And it's going to be a big problem. So back to the point. So they're not dumb. They're smart. So what they want to do is calm it down because they know that Israel has the momentum. It's like watching football. All right. If a team has momentum and is driving down the field, you want to try to stop that momentum. All right. There's various ways to do that, but you want to try to stop that momentum so they don't score. So Hezbollah and Iran are trying to stop the momentum by not acting and seeing if the international community will put more pressure on Israel. Ceasefire, ceasefire. Oh, that's too much, Israel. And so they can reconstitute, which is what they have done for decades. Israel starts gaining, and all of a sudden the international community comes in and ceasefire. No. Focus. Stop worrying about what the international community has to say. Get the fucking job done. And there'll be peace for everybody.
Sarah?
All right, this morning the U.S. is preparing its military as fears grow that Iran may be planning retaliatory attacks. CNN's Arlette Saenz at the White House with more on how the Biden administration is reviewing all of this at the moment, and they're meeting at this very moment. What are you learning, Arlette?
Well, Sarah, President Biden is hoping to prevent this situation from escalating into a wider regional conflict that could engulf the region. That is something that the administration has feared and really tried to work to prevent for the past year. Now, a U.S. official tells CNN that one major area of concern right now is the possibility that Iran could be planning an attack in the wake of Israel's killing of Hamas leader Hassan Nasrallah just last Friday. So the U.S. is working with Israel on its defenses, this U.S. official said, hoping that a joint defense and a change in the U.S. military posture in the region could potentially ward off a potential attack. Now, this official did not outline what an Iranian attack would look like or specify the exact moves that the U.S. could take. But the Pentagon, in a statement on Sunday, did stress that if Iran tries to, or any of its partners or proxies, tries to use this moment to target either American personnel or American interests, that the U.S. would respond to defend the American people. The Pentagon has noted that they have significant capabilities in the region, including a carrier strike group, and they are also working to increase the readiness of U.S. troops who could mobilize to the region. Now, President Biden on Saturday convened a meeting of his national security team along with Vice President Kamala Harris to assess the situation in the Middle East and also talk about the readiness of U.S. military forces. And just yesterday, he stressed to reporters that he believes an all-out war must be avoided. Take a listen.
Check out these amazing high-tech shoes created for the U.S. Special Forces. These shoes are
Special
to
Forces.
relieve lower back pain, knee pain, and even improve your posture.
Come on, CNN, what the hell? It's 5:50.
CNN has learned of cross-border commando raids by Israel.
Out war in the Middle East be avoided. Why taking precautions relative to our embassies and personnel we want to leave?
Let me accentuate the point that I'm making here and how stupid Biden is and how stupid our foreign policy is and how it's been a fucking failure for 50 fucking years in the Middle East. This is Biden's response. It has to be. We really have to avoid it. This is talking about war in the Middle East or escalation of violence in the Middle East. It has to be. We really have to avoid it. We've already taken precautions relative to our embassies and personnel who wanted to leave. That sounds like a fearful stance. I'm telling you, the United States is going to screw this up if we're fearful and we're not willing to get the job done with Iran. It's going to be a lot worse, a lot worse. And it's incompetence. Tell me, at what point in time did America fail when we took risks and focused and made sure that we completed the mission? It's when we are afraid and, you know, we have trepidation. That's when we start failing. And that is emblematic of the whole fucking ultra-liberal agenda. The pacifists.
Relative to our embassies and personnel we want to leave. We're working like hell with the French and many others.
Yeah, we're working like hell with the French and others to do ceasefire.
U.S. hope that there could be some type of diplomatic solution to try to return Israeli
There's
and
no
Lebanese
diplomatic solution
back to their homes. President Biden also said he does plan to speak with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu soon, though officials have not detailed how soon that conversation might happen. But Biden making very clear there that he wants to take whatever steps possible to try to ensure that this war does not spill out into a wider regional conflict that would engulf the whole region.
All that signs. Thank you so much for your report from the White House. Kate?
With us now to talk much more about all of this is former IDF spokesperson, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. Thank you so much for coming in. It's good to see you. So this new reporting that Israeli special forces have been carrying out targeted raids into southern Lebanon, gathering intelligence ahead of a possible ground incursion. From your experience, if this is happening, do you think a ground incursion is inevitable?
Well, nothing is inevitable. First of all, good morning to you, and thanks for having me. Nothing is inevitable if at this stage ceasefire agreements or talks would be successful, and the French and the Americans would get Hezbollah to agree to implement Security Council Resolution 1701 and move beyond the Litani River.
That's never going to happen.
No such ground operations would be necessary. Israeli civilians would be able to move back to their homes, and I think Israel would be very happy to avail itself to other threats that it has against its national security, unfinished business in Gaza and elsewhere. So, no, this is definitely something that can be avoided, but as the trajectory is now, it looks as if nobody's really making it something that can be avoidable, and Israel, as a sovereign country, has a responsibility towards its people to allow them to go home safely. And I think the operations and what you refer to, the information, is part of making that happen and taking the necessary preparations in order to bring their civilians home.
All right. Okay.
Your team comes to work. Get started.
BBC. Let's go to BBC. But before we do that,
Hello, you're live.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the anti-aging advanced box. In the anti-aging advanced box, you get the Max 35, which is a structural nano silver liquid. You take a teaspoon of it a day. you get the D3, which helps to get cells to go into apoptosis, and it's a gene expression cofactor. Vitamin C helps to boost up your immune system. Probiotic, which is very important to have good digestion, lower inflammation in the gut, better metabolism, better energy absorption. It's in a veggie cap. C60 with your choice of extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, or avocado oil. C60 is a very strong antioxidant to soak up free radicals. Your choice of deodorant, either in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. This deodorant is made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It's also a dual purpose product where you use it as a deodorant every day, but it also helps to detoxify your body because of the ingredients that are in the bar. This is for males and females. And the structural nanosilver toothpaste. It whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, neutralizes pathogens, reduces that gum irritation, and maintains the gum line. It's very important to neutralize pathogens and have good oral hygiene, because poor oral hygiene can lead to cardiovascular disease and valvular disease. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the advanced anti-aging box.
BBC News, I'm Anna Foster here in Martyr Square in the heart of Beirut. Just in the last hour here in Lebanon, Hezbollah has said that it will continue to fight against Israel, and it says that it will choose a successor to Hassan Nasrallah at the earliest opportunity. Now, this was after the leader of Hezbollah for more than 3 decades was killed in an Israeli airstrike in the southern suburbs here in Beirut on Friday evening. And in fact, the people that you can see behind me here in Martyr Square are people who have been here on these streets ever since. These are people who left their homes in the southern suburbs of Beirut, and it's a scene like this along the Corniche, along the waterfront. There are lots and lots of
S&P 500 trading at 5,734. Again, my target for the end of the year is 5,800 or 6,000 for the S&P 500. All right. Now there's going to be this little bit of an undulation as we're moving towards the election.
Not just here in Beirut, but in the Bekaa Valley as well, in the east and in the south of Lebanon, who've left their homes because of the ongoing violence. Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati has said that around 1 million people, which is a huge proportion, maybe a fifth of the population here in Lebanon, risk being displaced because of the
thing is, you know, the big badass military that Biden is supposedly in charge of. Why is it that Israel has to attack Yemen? Why couldn't it have the Navy and our Air Force neutralize Yemen and the Houthis? Why? Because Biden is afraid. It's not like the United States can't do it. Hell, Saudi Arabia wants us to do it.
Hamas have also confirmed this morning that its leader here in Lebanon, Fatah Sharif Abu al-Amin, was killed in a separate strike in the south of the country. And Israel is again vowing to expand its military operations here after targeting dozens more Hezbollah targets, they say, overnight. The images you're looking at now show the aftermath of one of those attacks, which killed 3 Palestinian leaders. Now, rescue efforts have been going on in the Kola district in Beirut. We'll speak to our correspondent there, Nafisa Konabad, very soon. This strike that happened in Kola at about 1 o'clock this morning, notable because it was the first strike here in Beirut that didn't happen in the southern suburbs of the city. And you can see now these live pictures as well. You can actually hear the sirens, which are at a constant sound in Beirut at the moment as the injured are taken to hospital. And you can see in these live pictures as well just the smoke that is rising above the city. And again, that has been a really quite a constant feature since Friday, since we had that very significant airstrike that killed Hassan Nasrallah. But the strikes have continued over the last few days. Now, as I was telling you, we've had a statement here in Lebanon in the last hour or so from the most senior Hezbollah figure to actually speak since the killing of Hassan Nasrallah. This is Naim Qassam, who is the deputy of the organization. Now, he has been reacting to the strikes in Lebanon. He has been reacting, of course, to the death of Hassan Nasrallah. Now, of course, Hezbollah is a prescribed terrorist organization in the UK, in the US, and in other parts of the world as well. So to bring you a small flavor of what he said in that address.
If Israel thinks that it's open hand and determination to commit atrocities and aggression, if it thinks these will achieve its goals, then it is delusional. Yes, there are pains and sacrifices, but we make our future victories. Some of us die, some of us are martyred, and the remaining ones continue on the path of victory, which is forthcoming soon. We've all made sacrifices, starting with the pagers and walkie-talkies, and then the martyrdom of our leader. These will have undermined.
I'm going to boil it down to its most simplistic essence. October 2nd, the shofar is going to blow. All right. For Rosh Hashanah. And for the Jewish people, there's going to be a blessing that comes down, because this whole freaking year has been nothing but a curse. But the beginning of the new year is October 2nd, and it's going to be a really bad year for him. Trust me on this. And they know it. They know that the momentum, that they not only on the battlefield and on this plane, the activity, they know it's the sound of death is coming closer and closer to them, but metaphysically it's happening. These people are religious. They understand the metaphysical. They understand these strange changes and dynamics with soul roots and Kabbalistic texts, and they get it. They're not dumb. They're just gonna die. Happy New Year, motherfucker.
Major armies and organizations, but we continue with the help of God.
Well, that's what Naim Qassam has been saying in the last hour here in Lebanon, and on the other side of the border in Israel as well. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has been meeting his troops on the northern border. I just want to tell you a couple of the things that he has been saying. The elimination, he says, of Hassan Nasrallah is a very important step, but not everything. This is a short video that's been released. He's telling troops, we'll use all the abilities we have, and if someone on the other side did not understand what all the abilities mean, it is all the abilities. And you, he said to his troops, are part of this effort. We trust you to be able to accomplish anything.
It sounds like a tautology. Circle, just circle logic, circle, 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 like a turban.
And Yoav Gallant goes on to say, everything that needs to be done will be done, and we will use all the forces from the air, sea, and land. I also want to play a short clip from Nasser Kanani. He is the foreign ministry spokesman in Iran. He's held a news conference again this morning condemning the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah. Mr. Kanani said that although Hassan Nasrallah was, in his words, martyred, his cause is still alive.
Our foreign minister has had a meeting and has talked on the phone with his Lebanese counterpart. They have been discussing issues and they've discussed what they should do, both by Iran and by the Lebanese government at the same time, so that we can follow up on our political and legal demands. Naturally, the Iranian side would not leave any of the actions by the Zionist regime unanswered. We would definitely respond to that, and the Zionist regime would have to pay for what they've done to the Iranian citizens, to the Palestinian people swiftly. This would not go unpunished, and the Islamic Republic would do what it takes on its own side.
Well, let's go.
Oh, wow.
She's been looking for an insight in that data forever.
Oh.
I'm gonna find it.
Did you tell her about Sapphire?
No, I thought you did.
I'm gonna tell her.
Oh no. The quickest way from a billion points of data to a point of view. Sapphire.
Well, let's go live now to our Middle East correspondent, Ilan Mel, who's in
Iran says death will not be unanswered.
The Israeli authorities are saying about their operations against Hezbollah.
Well, we've been hearing from them how they have really been hitting on multiple fronts inside Lebanon, targeting what they say are rockets and rocket launch sites, but also senior figures from Hezbollah as a group. And the assessment, as it's reported in the Israeli media, is that they really have destroyed much of Hezbollah's firepower with these very intense aerial campaign that has gone on for the past week. But still, what we're hearing, particularly from the mayors of those towns in the north of Israel that have been evacuated as a result of the cross-border missile fire that's gone on now for 11 months since the start of the war in Gaza. Those mayors want, for their citizens to be able to return real safety along the border. They say that comes only with a ground invasion, with dealing with the infrastructure that Hezbollah has set up just close to the border and even under the border since that devastating war between Israel and Hezbollah back in 2006. They say people will not go back to their homes unless that is dealt with. So there is increasing speculation here about whether Israel will go for a ground invasion. Those comments, the latest ones by the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, really hinting that things are moving in that direction, with him addressing ground troops close to the border and telling them, you're part of this effort. We trust you to be able to accomplish anything, and we will use all the capabilities that we have. So there have been some reports in the Wall Street Journal that actually elite Israeli military units have already carried out limited and focused raids across the border. That is not something that's confirmed at all on the Israeli side. But the question being asked is, if Israel was to go in to southern Lebanon as well, what would it do? Its aim would be to push Hezbollah away from the border, to make it keep to the UN Security Council resolution that ended the 2006 war. That means making sure that Hezbollah is to the north of the Litani River. So would Israel go and try to occupy that big area in the south of Lebanon up to the river, or would it go for a smaller scale operation closer to the border?
Okay, for the moment, Yolanda, thank you very much indeed. We can just see there, once again, the live pictures from Beirut, a city that has seen so much devastation in the last few days, and so many people displaced. And as we were hearing from Anna Foster, who's in Beirut, many people now on the streets, terrified.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the fact. Here's the facts. If the international community didn't push back on Israel back in 60s, back in the 70s, back in the 80s, back in 2006, we wouldn't have this fucking problem. It was the international community that kicked the can down the road to make this worse, where there's more population density, the war effort costs more money, and it's more destructive. More people die, there's more collateral damage in this region because the international community didn't want to get the job done for decades. So, the reality of the situation is everyone's at fault here for not getting the job done. Because this is a very cold-hearted fact. Many times, ceasefire doesn't mean peace, especially long-term peace.
To our BBC Persian Middle East correspondent, who is in Beirut for us now, Nafise Konabad. Nafise, what is the mood amongst
it's amazing with this BBC. BBC is, not so pro-Israel. All right, look at this. You can tell that the shot was it's a real thing, but they placed her to have maximum visual points. They put her right in the middle of the cars. All right, you got this bombed out car. It kind of looks like it might be a Nissan. You also have an SUV here. Okay, she's right in the middle. Behind her is some sort of telecom Samsung cell phone company. All right, some eatery. All right, and then an arrow where it says you can go forward or you can turn right. All right, there's lots of debris, right, scattered all over the place. All right, it's almost like they look for the perfect shot to put her in to show the damage and the destruction. Let's continue, because BBC is totally unbiased.
Say, Konarbad, Nafisay, what is the mood amongst people there? They must be fearful that there will be further airstrikes.
You can skip this video, but you can't skip
I'm going
the
to be
truth.
skipping it.
Right now in North Gaza, children are going to bed hungry every night.
Yes, Ben, and especially after last night's airstrikes on the building behind me, which is in a Sunni majority area in Beirut. It is part of Beirut, and it is not Hezbollah stronghold that this time was attacked. It seems that it was a targeted assassination because only one floor, it's a 6th floor of an 11-story building, was hit. Clearly that the target was in the 6th floor of this building, but around the building, I can see a lot of cars that are damaged, smashed, and windows shattered. And the sound, the blast sound, we could hear all over. We could hear it from across Beirut. My home was shaken.
What do you think war is, honey?
Which wasn't very close, but not too far as well. But my home was shaken because the blast was so strong. And this is the first time after the war of 2006 between Hezbollah and Israel that a part outside Hezbollah stronghold is being hit by Israel. And now that I'm talking to you...
And if Israel listened to the Ribbies warning and got the job done in 2006, they wouldn't have this problem. The international community pushed the can down the road, and now we have a major problem. And Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon. How lovely. And by the way, the Biden administration seems to be paving a way with a golden brick road for the Iranians to see the Wizard of Oz, to be able to have their nuclear weapon. Because their foreign policy, their Biden's administration foreign policy sucks.
Now we have Israeli drones over our head flying so low we can hear it's buzzing. It was the same case yesterday.
Scott, don't you think that this is a little different than 2006 now? Yeah, I think so. So Scott Ritter, maybe you're wrong.
Unusually, in the past 2 days, these drones are flying so low, and it seems that that's part of the surveillance. So there are a big fear among people that soon enough we will have similar assassinations or similar attacks in other parts of Beirut that are considered relatively safe and out of the target for Israel.
Okay, Nafise, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. It's the latest there from Beirut. And I just want to tell you that on our BBC Live page, there's analysis from Paul Adams, who's been in northern Israel for quite a few days, and just talking about the build-up of Israeli tanks that have been massing close to the Lebanese border, reservists called up, and Israel's top general telling troops to prepare to operate inside Hezbollah strongholds.
It's coming.
So that
I'm telling you, when the shofar blows for Rosh Hashanah, there's going to be a serious kinetic event happening. All right. All right. With that said, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com and get the anti-aging deluxe box. In the anti-aging deluxe box, what you get, it's a lot of products. You get Max 35, D3, vitamin C, you get the probiotic, you get a very strong antioxidant, C60, either in extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, or avocado oil, 2 ounce. Take a teaspoon of it a day. Your choice of deodorant, citrus or peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. The deodorants are for males and females, and they help to detoxify the body. Made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Structural Nail Silver toothpaste. This is the best toothpaste that you can buy. And resveratrol to get rid of those cells that went into senescence. In addition, it's an antioxidant and helps with mitochondrial health. It is synergistic with C60. Okay. Now, in the Super Deluxe box, you get everything I just said in the anti-aging deluxe box, but in the Super Deluxe box, you also get omega-3, which brings down your LDL levels and increases your HDL levels. Also helps with keeping your red blood cells from sticking. So this helps preventing clots or overclotting. Turmeric brings down inflammation. Ashwagandha also helps bring down inflammation, helps to bring down cortisol levels and glucose levels. Very important, and is synergistic with turmeric. And vitamin B complex, very important for cellular metabolism, for energy, and for the health of your mitochondria. Your mitochondria, especially the first 5 B vitamins, B1 through B5, help with the electron transport chain for the mitochondria. So the electron transport chain in the mitochondria helps to produce your ATP. So this is very important to take, especially when you get older. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the anti-aging deluxe box or the anti-aging super deluxe box. Now, again, if you don't want to purchase the whole box, but you only want to purchase individual items, you can do that also. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, I want to go to DW.
Pushing the limits starts long before you cross the finish line. It begins the moment you say, I can do this. At TCS, our experts transform.
I want to go to
businesses.
Bloomberg here because they're talking about supply chain.
Right, which basically says that they can get involved and restrict the activities and power of labor unions when it winds up upsetting the country, basically, and they can't sort of function as a whole. So to this point, then, if we get something, let's just say 50 to 70%.
This is the labor problem in the port.
What does that look like for the companies that would be involved for that?
So I don't cover the port operators themselves. I cover Maersk, which has some port operations. I mean, it will just mean that their costs are rising. Right now, those are pretty good businesses. I think the more interesting thing from my perspective is the union's inability to accept the reality of automation. Obviously, they want to protect jobs, but in a world of AI, and productivity improvements, whether that's, in offices or on docks. There's really a lot to be said there. And it would be a shame that, the U.S. ports wouldn't be as competitive to other ports around the world.
All right, Lee, thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciate getting your time. Lee Klaskow, he's the Senior Transport, Logistics, and Shipping Analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. He follows everything, the rails, the trucks, the sea ships, all that kind of stuff, logistics company. So he's our supply chain.
There was a strike on the West Coast that they settled. Now it looks like there's going to be a strike on the East Coast with the ports. So we may actually see an increase in cost of goods because there's going to be demand, but no supply. So cost of goods may go up. And items that you are looking for, you may not be able to get. So, just be careful. If this continues on, if this is just a few days, it's no big deal. But if this continues on for weeks, it may actually affect the holiday season sales. And, so just keep that in mind. Let's continue on. Maybe they'll continue on the.
He joins us from
just look at all the ports that are along the East Coast.
Part of the Gulf. The day that's really kind of got my attention, keeping read in on it, is these auto companies really having sometimes Stellantis stock getting slammed, as John Tucker's been reporting, and it just goes to the issue. Boy, if I were an investor, I'm like, I don't know how I would invest with any of these companies with any confidence. I just don't know how this whole transition to electric is going to go. I have no idea.
Yeah, and also, where is the bottom? So, I mean, Stellantis, what was it? Its second downgrade in like 4 months or something along those lines. Like, why is it so hard to get that clarity? Like, one downgrade for earnings, okay, but why is it so hard to do it on a real-time basis? And then how do you even know when the trough is to know how to start pricing in other stuff?
Yep, absolutely. It's just, I don't think the companies really have a handle on where their demand is for their business because, again, they're transitioning from one business model that they've been in for more than 100 years to a completely different business model.
Not even that, but there's a great article out right now that says that Ford has emerged as the American firm most at risk from its exposure to China. Beating Apple, beating Tesla. So now we have to layer this in now to Ford at the same time.
Yeah, and at the same time, that the Western automaker.
People don't understand that it's not just Europe, it's not just the Middle East, it's Asia. And this change, this decoupling that's happening, all right? And this decoupling has to happen because we were hyper-coupled with China because of Walmart and this idea of moving manufacturing overseas, and we'll just buy the products cheaply. Now, part of that was a strategic financial engineering free trade agreement where, basically the Chinese were buying American bonds after we bought their products. So we send money there, build plants. So they have FDI. They have jobs. They make stuff. We buy. We give them dollars, and they buy our bonds. But that game's over now. We imported deflation to make cheap products overseas, and it was supercharged with Walmart. Now we have a gutted military. We don't have a manufacturing base, and our citizens have an IQ of 98. Lovely. And we have social media that makes you even stupid, more stupid. And these smartphones they don't make you smart, they make you dumb. The port thing could be a problem for the holiday sales in the United States, but I suspect that there's going to be maybe after a week or two, there's going to be an agreement. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the anti-aging structural nano-silver box. In that, you get the Max 35, take a teaspoon of it a day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two. You get the probiotic, which helps to reset your gut biome and improve your metabolism. You get your choice of structural nano-silver soaps. I have 5 different varieties. This one that I'm holding is the lemongrass. Structural nano-silver gel helps to neutralize pathogens, and it's a dual-purpose product. It can help heal wounds, abrasions, minor burns. And you can use it as skincare. You can put it on your skin, exfoliate, put it on your skin before you go to bed, exfoliate in the morning, and you'll notice that your skin's tighter and clearer. You can put it around your mouth, around your eyes, around your ears, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils, neutralize pathogens, stays active for 5.5 hours. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these great boxes that I have. The last item that's in the structural nanosilver box, the anti-aging structural nanosilver box, is the structural nanosilver toothpaste, which I have mentioned already. So you get a lot of products in the structural in the anti-aging structural nanosilver box. Max 35, probiotic, structural nanosilver gel, toothpaste, and you get the soap, your choice of one soap. I have 5 different varieties. And you get your choice of lozenges. Lozenges are really important. The moment you start feeling that irritation in your throat, you want to take some lozenges, neutralize the pathogen, maintain the mucosal barrier, and that will mitigate getting further infection. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this great anti-aging structural nanosilver box. Get a lot of product. You have your choice of Manuka honey or elderberry zinc. So please go to my store and get those anti-aging boxes. If you don't want to get an anti-aging box and you just want individual products, you can do that also. But if you buy an anti-aging box, it is a little cheaper for you. All right.
Hezbollah began firing into Israel in support of Hamas, which staged the terror attacks on October 7th last year. Communities in northern Israel, including the Arab majority city of Nazareth, have faced a barrage of missiles, rockets, and drones. DW's Emily Gordine reports now on how many citizens feel authorities are not doing enough to protect them.
It could have been so much worse. Shrapnel from a Hezbollah rocket hit the roof of this car.
We woke up in the morning. My wife was heading to work. This is my wife's car. And we saw shrapnel from the missile that hit the roof. We were thankful that our children weren't in it.
Faraz Haj Yahya is a member of the local municipality in the majority Arab city of Nazareth. He says they were lucky this time. Nazareth, like so many cities in Israel's north, has been under constant rocket fire by Hezbollah over the past year. Normally a hub for tourism, many shops have had to shut down since the war began in October. Without tourists, the economy faces collapse. And with the latest assassination of Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah, unease has settled over residents about what comes next.
What's happening is stealing my optimism. It's not letting me see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not seeing it.
Of course I worry about my kids. Every minute, every hour, they call me and send me videos asking how things are.
Of course, the situation now there isn't easy. We don't have shelters, we don't have safe places to go when the siren goes off. I really hope the war ends soon.
Bunkers are a really important part of Israel's strategy to keep everyone safe. But here in Nazareth, on this side of the city, there's not a single one public bunker. Many of the houses were built before it was mandatory to include shelters in them, and Faraz Haj Yahya says it leaves residents vulnerable.
In Nazareth, there are a few shelters that are old, and they haven't been prepared at all. Of course, in Jewish areas, there are many shelters. Our neighboring city of Nov HaGalil has large budget allocations, but the Arab community lacks funding and everything related to safety and security.
It's a problem shared by many Arab communities across Israel, says Amir Bisharat, leader of the National Committee of Heads of Arab Local Authorities.
Due to the proximity of Arab local authorities to Israeli military sites, many Arab areas were hit by shells and rockets, leading to a state of panic, fear, and emergency within the Arab community.
Many Arab communities long for the war to finally come to an end, not just to safeguard their lives, but also their livelihoods.
The DW's Emily Gordine, who filed that report, joins us now from Jerusalem.
It's not just in the war. It's create a lasting peace. It's not about just stop fighting. Have lasting peace for everybody. But that can't happen until you get the cancer out, because the cancer metastasizes. And that cancer is Hamas, Hezbollah, and the theocracy of Iran. And it'll never end until that happens.
Tell us more about how Israel's Arab communities feel about the escalation in the north.
Well, they're very, very worried. Many Arab communities, they live in the north of Israel. They've been living under this constant fighting between Hezbollah and Israel. And of course, they've also taken a huge economic blow. I mean, walking through Nazareth, that's usually a hub for tourists, for pilgrims. The streets were essentially empty. And then you add on to that aspect of security, of people not feeling safe. I mean, normally in Israel, when you go to cities here, there are bunkers have been put in place into, for example, big car parks. But walking through the old town of Nazareth yesterday, there was not a single public bunker that you could have run to if there would have been an air siren or air alert. And so what we're hearing essentially from the Arab community is that they're joining calls by hostage families, by hostage relatives for a ceasefire in Gaza, for a ceasefire deal in Gaza, as well as in Lebanon. They see this as the only way of ending fighting. But essentially what we're looking at the moment, what we're seeing right now is that these calls are just not being heard.
Now, in a separate development, we understand Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has appointed his former rival, Gideon Sa'ar, to his cabinet. What can you tell us about that appointment?
That's right. Gideon Sa'ar essentially is joining the government as a minister without portfolio, so a minister without an actual department. Gideon Sa'ar is the leader of the New Hope Party, which is a fairly small party that hasn't been doing very well in the polls recently. Now, why is he joining the government? Well, that could have two reasons, essentially. One is because, well, there's been rumors over the past few weeks that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would like to remove Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, from his cabinet. They've not seen eye to eye on a few things. Gallant, for example, was in favor of a hostage deal, and Netanyahu now sees the opportunity of potentially swapping him out with Gideon Sa'ar. And number two could be essentially to strip National Security Minister, or reason number two could be to strip National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir of the power to break up this coalition government. What we've seen over the past few months is that every time there's been a policy that has not been to the liking of National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, then he has threatened to break up the government over this, and this is essentially Netanyahu's chance to strip him of that power. Now, the news has been received very critically in Israel itself. Many see it as an opportunistic move of Gideon Sa'ar, because he spent the better part of last year criticizing precisely this government. And it's being seen as a way of propping up this government now. A columnist in an Israeli newspaper here in Yediot Ahronot actually wrote this morning that this is quote, a painful blow to a large number of Israelis who think that Netanyahu needs to go. So certainly there is some consensus that this could lead to a stabilization of the government, and at the same time, it's also been received very, very critically.
Emily, thank you very much. That was our correspondent, Emily Gordine, in Jerusalem.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and I have the anti-aging skin health beginners box. And in that, you get the collagen, which is has a scooper. You take a scooper full each day. You mix it with food. You can mix it with milk, or you can mix it with water. I mix it with food. And it has a very extensive amino acid profile here, okay, that you can see on the screen. So you would take this every day. You also get vitamin C. This cross-links with collagen to improve your dermal layer. You need to drink 32 to 64 ounces of filtered water to allow for this cross-linking to take place. And then you also get the structural nanosilver gel. You put this on your skin, all right? It works the best by just applying it on your skin before you go to bed, and then exfoliate in the morning. And you'll notice that your skin is tighter and clearer, especially on your facial area. It'll tighten the skin. So this is a great way to improve the health of your skin. Vitamin C, the structural nanosilver gel, and the collagen. Now the collagen and the vitamin C helps with the dermal layer, and the structural nanosilver gel helps with the topical layer. Now with the advanced box, the anti-aging advanced skin health box, all right, you get resveratrol, which helps to get rid of senescent cells. It's an antioxidant, and it helps with mitochondrial health, all right? This will improve the basal layer. Now, the basal layer of your skin helps to rejuvenate your skin. So your skin flakes off, and it has different layers, all right? Most of the time, it has 7 layers. And as it moves closer to the surface, it has more keratin. So the cell is actually less alive as it's building up keratin. And that's the reason why our skin is waterproof and has it has a barrier for protection because of that high keratin content. The lower you go, the less keratin and the more alive the cell is. Up to the basal layer, where at the basal layer, deep into your skin, that's where you start to generate new cells. So this basal layer has stem cells, all right? You need that basal layer healthy to have healthy skin. Now, you can improve the basal layer by taking the resveratrol and the C60. Now, you get a choice of extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, or avocado oil. C60 is a very strong antioxidant. It's synergistic with resveratrol. So resveratrol gets rid of the senescent cells and improves the mitochondrial health of the basal layer. C60 soaks up those free radicals. Resveratrol also soaks up free radicals, but C60 is much more potent and soaks up many more free radicals. And that way the basal layer is healthier and the mitochondrial health is improved, has more energy to be able to do cell division. Very important, right? So the basal layer is improved, and then as the cells are dividing to make new skin and building up the dermal layer, the cross-linking between vitamin C and the collagen happens, all right? And that's through drinking the filtered water, you get the cross-linking. And then the structural nanosilver gel for topical treatment. That way you're improving your basal layer, you're improving the dermal layer, and you're improving the topical layer, all right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you want to get the beginner's box for the skin health, the collagen, the gel, and the vitamin C. And if you want to get the advanced skin health box, you also get resveratrol and your choice of C60. It's a great buy and it improves your skin. All right, so please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get your anti-aging skin health boxes. All right, so with that said, let's
Hello, you're live with BBC News. I'm Anna Foster here in Martin.
Oh, Democracy Now! Let's go to Democracy Now! Because they're so open-minded. I mean, the host of the show is like super ultra liberal.
This news is funded by viewers like you.
Yeah,
Please
ultra
support
liberals.
our work at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now! We're going to turn to Washington, D.C. right now for more on all of this, to look at how Iran could respond to the Israeli strike Friday in Lebanon that killed the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. We go to Trita Parsi, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. He's just written a piece for Zateo, headline Nasrallah Assassinated, What Happens Next?
Responsible statecraft? I mean, these centers and these positions, I mean, they just like, it's like right out of a horror film. Responsible statecraft. See, this is the problem. It's this top-down intelligentsia, theocratic mechanisms that are being built out at the international level that are causing us to reach. They're causing us to not reach peace because they don't allow for a system to reach like a homeostasis. They intervene. Imagine this, all right? Imagine this. You're trying to make, you're trying to boil some ingredients, all right? But the recipe needs it to heat up, heat up, right? And then cool down and then congeal. But the international community needs to just keep on, all they do is just stir and stir. So the ingredients don't congeal, all right? And therefore, you don't reach homeostasis with your wonderful evening dish, all right? This is what's going on with the international community at large, with countries that there's strife, especially in the Middle East, where there's such a biblical significance of what's going on with that Temple Mount. The international community thinks that they're going to be able to stop this. The international community is what caused the problems that we have in Europe right now. With this the international community was expanding NATO. The international community doesn't want homeostasis in the Middle East. It just wants to just keep on stirring and just go ceasefire. Now the reasons why in the 60s and the 70s was because the United States was so dependent on Saudi oil and not to fluctuate the price. Because our economy was so geared to the petroleum industry. I don't know. I have no respect for these people. These people are just idiots. Just idiots. But at least he has his tie right. See, this guy, he picked the right shirt for the right tie. Give him credit.
Trita, thanks for joining us again. What happens next? And can you respond to the assassination of the longtime Hezbollah leader since, 1992, Hassan Nasrallah?
So a lot of eyes are, of course, on Iran and trying to figure out what Iran is going to do next. But we have to recognize that Israel has quite successfully cornered Iran. Iran played the long game, tried to avoid a direct confrontation with Israel, absorbed a lot of hits. But in the process of playing the long game, its options have become fewer, weaker, and more dangerous. At this point, if Iran does almost anything, it will risk triggering the larger regional war that Netanyahu wants and that the Iranians have tried to avoid. As a result, I think our eyes should actually be on what Israel does next. Whether it will go through with an invasion. We're already seeing reports now that some commando raids have been conducted inside of Lebanon by the Israelis, probably in preparation for a land invasion, as well as what Israel plans to do with the Houthis. If it reaches a point in which the Iranians conclude that Israel's strategy is to take out some of these entities before going to Iran itself, that may trigger the Iranians to act now in the hope of actually having better options now rather than waiting. But other than that, the Iranians seem to be of the mindset that they do not want to get in a direct engagement because of their own internal problems. Iran is faced with a significant anger from the population over the abuse and repression of the Iranian regime, particularly in the protest of 2 years ago. It does not believe that he actually can afford a war of this kind. Instead, its priorities are to try to see if it can get a deal with the United States on the nuclear issue, reduce tensions, lift some of the sanctions, improve the economy in order to reduce the distance between the society and the government. The last thing they want in that context is a war with Israel that will most likely increase that distance and the anger of the population.
In addition to the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah on Friday, Israel killed the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the deputy commander Abbas Nilfurushan, who was killed in that Nasrallah strike, a seminal or key figure in the Iran-Iraq War. Can you talk about his significance and then the role of the new Iranian president seen as a reformist?
So Iran has taken quite a lot of hits. Nilfurushan is just the latest commander that has been killed by the Israelis, not just since October 7th, but over the course of several years in Syria and in Lebanon itself. And this is part of their long game in terms of not necessarily reacting to each and every one of these, because they know that Israel is in a stronger position and Israel has an interest of having a confrontation sooner rather than later. But again, that strategy, that long-term strategy only works if there's also a short game. And Iran's short game seems to be losing right now, given how Israel has managed to crack the communication system of Hezbollah, take out the top echelon of its commanders, and put Hezbollah in a very, very weak position.
So the U.S. struck Hodeidah in Yemen, and the Houthis. Now the question is how they will respond. Can you talk about Iran's relationship with the Houthis, with Hamas, and with Hezbollah?
I think one of the things that has not been acknowledged, at least not in the Western narrative about October 7th, is that it clearly came at a very bad time for the Iranians and for Hezbollah itself. I think actually there's been privately quite a lot of irritation in Tehran with Hamas because it obviously did not coordinate any of that with Iranians. The Iranians as well were not even aware of the plans that Hamas had for that attack. And the reason, again, is because it forced a confrontation with Israel at a much earlier stage than what the Iranians and Hezbollah were ready for. Lebanon's economy was in complete disaster. Iran had its own problems. They were not looking for a fight. Hamas's calculation was completely different. And it also shows you the distance that does exist between these different entities. Iran and Hezbollah are much, much closer to each other, whereas Hamas is a more recent addition to Iran's axis and a very problematic one in terms of their relationship. They've had several fallouts. Hamas originally was quite a strong enemy of Iran. Then you have the Houthis, who is a very different entity, does its own thing, is part of the axis essentially, but has made it very clear it is not taking any orders from Iran. It's been quite critical publicly of Iran, arguing that Iran has been far too risk averse and that Iran should have entered into this fight much, much sooner rather than watching from afar and not aiding Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis to the extent that they believe that Iran should have.
I want to finally ask about the same question I put to Gideon Levy in Tel Aviv, Trita. You're Iranian American. You've been writing extensively books on U.S., Iranian, Israel policy. Among your books, Losing an Enemy, Obama, Iran, and the Triumph of Diplomacy. Your first book, Treacherous Alliance, The Secret Dealings of Iran, Israel, and the United States. Do you feel that the Israeli Prime Minister is attempting to pull Iran into a war with the United States as the #1 sponsor, the United States, of the military?
Remember what I said about Satan and how it needs to attach to Esau negative soul root, all right? The liberals are trying to create this entanglement, all right, to say, well, Israel's trying to get the U.S. involved. But the U.S. soul root has a little bit of Esau and a lot of Jacob. So it's going to naturally want to align with Israel. Right? I'm talking about this from a Kabbalistic standpoint here. All right. And her questioning is trying to legitimize a pacifist movement. Satan needs pacifism so it can maintain its attachment to Esau negative. If Iran is eliminated, if the theocratic head and the theocratic apparatus of Iran is eliminated and the nuclear weapon capability is destroyed, Hezbollah and Hamas are destroyed, then the negative Esau's soul root has died and Satan cannot live. All right. Well, you have her and these liberals. Well, Israel's trying to drag in the United States. The United States would not be in this position if they got the job done in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, 2006, 2009, 2016. And it probably would have been quicker and in Gaza and less catastrophic in terms of time and this duration of military operations in Gaza if Netanyahu just got the job done and didn't have to slow walk it because of the United States. You cause more suffering because of slow walking. This is what I mean about the negative root of Esau. She is part of the negative root of Esau. Don't be a pacifist. Ones that are pacifists are going to be cursed. The country, if it moves in the collective in a pacifist way, is going to be cursed, and it's going to be cursed through different means, economically, energy-wise, agriculture, economic prowess when it comes to international trade. And the United States will lose its perch if we are afraid to act. If we have a pacifist mentality, we are going to fail.
Israel.
I don't think there is any doubt that that is Netanyahu's game plan. And the reason why he has been successful in the last couple of weeks is not because of any particular action by the Israelis, although, of course, they scored some major successes. It's because of the...
In Iran is lily white. Democracy now. Iran just said in a couple of videos ago that I was playing that, I think it was on Fox, that Iran is taking interviews for the head of Hezbollah. Iran funds Hezbollah. Iran has said that it wanted to destroy the great Satan. Oh, by the way, that's the United States. And destroy the little Satan. That, by the way, is Israel. Iran is not lily white here.
Posture of the Biden administration. Biden has chosen to be so deferential, more deferential than any other American president has been to Netanyahu. And as a result, despite all of the talk of wanting to avoid a larger regional war, which clearly is in the U.S. interest to avoid, Biden has adopted a posture in which he essentially says that
it's in the interest of the United States and the world at large to get the job done. Solve the problem. Don't kick the can down the road. Since we've been doing since the 1960s.
He provides the Israelis with the weapons, the political protection, the diplomatic support, and the arms and money to be able to pursue exactly the escalation that Biden says that he does not want. That's the big difference that has happened here now, that the United States has now, under Biden, chosen to completely be in support of whatever Netanyahu wants to do. And Netanyahu's plan for quite some time has been to reverse the balance in the Middle East to make sure that Israel is once again enjoying a much stronger and favorable position in the region by cutting down many of the different challengers to Israel that exist in the region. Reversing that balance is not something that Israel can do on its own. It can only do so by bringing in the United States into the war, whether it is directly or in the manner that Biden has been supporting everything that Israel is doing.
Satan wants to get the ultra-liberal to keep the entanglement to prevent Israel and the United States from getting the job done. So Satan still has the negative Esau soul roots energy force. And so it creates this strife.
U.S. troops, you have the warships in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Gulf. You have U.S. soldiers in Jordan, around 50,000 overall U.S. soldiers in the area. If this is intensified, how do you see this playing out in the U.S. election? Do you actually think, I mean, after Netanyahu addressed the U.S. Congress and got more applause than any president in U.S. history, as more than 50 standing ovations, he went down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump. This will serve Trump in this election.
Whether one thinks that Trump is going to be different or not from what Biden has done or what Harris may do, reality is, I think, that if you have this explosion taking place in the region, with the U.S. itself getting dragged into the war before the elections, it will serve Trump. The Biden administration have gone out and said that they've been working 24 hours without any rest to try to secure a ceasefire for more than 10 months now, and they have absolutely nothing to show for it except for constantly giving Israel more weapons and arms. And if that may not push away some of the more loyal supporters of the centrist elements of the Democratic Party, I think it does significantly risk losing a lot of the people who have been on the fence, who have given Biden the benefit of the doubt, certainly were willing to give Kamala Harris the benefit of the doubt. But if this disaster happens, I think that voting bloc, which I'm not talking about the Arab Americans or the Gen Z or the Muslim Americans, but that other voting bloc that is more on the fence on this, they may also be lost as a result of this.
Distinguished scholar on Iran. Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. We'll link your pieces of Taylor, Nasrallah assassinated, what happens next.
Lovely.
Author.
Lovely.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at Democracy.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the anti-Fauci box. In the anti-Fauci box, you get the Max 35. Take a teaspoon of it a day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day. E3 helps to get rid of helps to get rid of cells through apoptosis. Ashwagandha helps to bring down your cortisol levels, brings down your glucose levels, and bring down that inflammation. Turmeric brings down inflammation. It's an antioxidant. Magnesium and zinc helps to boost up your immune system. That is the anti-Fauci beginner's box. In the advanced box, you also get your choice of C60, either an extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, or avocado oil. C60 is a very strong antioxidant that soaks up free radicals. Really important, especially during the cold season. And the deluxe box, the anti-Fauci deluxe box, you also get omega-3, helps to keep those red blood cells from sticking. Really important since the 2020 crisis. Also brings down your LDL levels and increases your HDL levels, so it helps to improve your lipid profile. Digestive enzymes helps to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. But not only that, it has enzymes in here that breaks up glycoproteins. Really important especially since the 2020 crisis. And it's fibrinolytic. Bromelain is one of the compounds in here. It breaks up clots. It's fibrinolytic. So you want to break up clots, you want to break up glycoproteins, you need digestive enzyme complex. And you get lignans that helps to boost up your immune system, and it's an antioxidant. It's synergistic with C60. So you get a lot of product in the anti-Fauci deluxe box. So let me just repeat myself. In the anti-Fauci beginners box, you get the Max 35, the D3, the ashwagandha and the turmeric, and the magnesium and zinc. That's the beginner's box. In the advanced box, you also get to choose your 2-ounce C60. Very strong antioxidant. And in the deluxe box, you also get lignans, digestive enzyme complex, and omega-3. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the anti-Fauci beginners box, the anti-Fauci advanced box, or the anti-Fauci deluxe box. You're going to need it. I can't stand this liberal.
Now.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, as Israel strikes central Beirut, Yemen, and Gaza after the massive attack Friday in the Beirut suburb that killed the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, one of the most powerful figures in the region. We're joined by Gideon Levy. He is an Israeli journalist, author, columnist for Haaretz, as well as a member of its editorial board. His latest piece, Israel's Barbaric Glee over Nasrallah's assassination, is a new low for Israeli society.
Now we're going to let's bring on an ultra-liberal Israeli.
Gideon, thanks so much for joining us again. If you can start off by talking about what happened on Friday. You have Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, ascending the podium at the UN General Assembly, apparently right after he gave the go-ahead for the assassination of Nasrallah. Right before he came up on the podium, dozens of world leaders walked out. If you can talk about the significance of this decision, and then the bombing of Yemen, and of course the continuation of the assault on Gaza.
Netanyahu was actually taking the advice of the Rebbe. Netanyahu was taking the advice of the Rebbe that he received personally in 1980s. That Netanyahu received. Because throughout all these decades, Israel didn't get the job done because the international community kept on saying ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. And it just got worse and worse and worse, decade after decade after decade. The Rebbe warned the Jewish people on people like this guy that there's going to be internal strife within Israel that slows down getting the job done. And this way, the whole Satan keeps that entanglement happening with good and evil, because Satan needs the negative soul root of Esau to live. I mean, when you look at these people, do they look healthy? Do they look good? Do they look like good people? They look tired. They look, almost alien. Have you noticed that liberals, there's something, the essence, their external essence and internal essence is just, something's off. You can see it, especially her, but you can see it. There's something not right.
To your program is enough. Israel is shooting here, and Israel is assassinating there, and Israel is bombing here, and Israel is bombing there. Where are we aiming to? I mean, all those operations might be, at least part of them are justified. But what comes next? This thought that Israel can solve everything.
Well, thank you for asking, Levy. Dr. Paul Cottrell has said it since October 7th. And oh, by the way, it's been written down for thousands of years. The Temple Mount is going to be rebuilt. Israel's going to have a larger border that goes back to what was inscribed in the Torah, in the Bible, on what the borders for Israel are. That's where this is all going. Now, how many years it takes, I don't know. Maybe it's in months. Maybe it's in hours. I don't know. But it's going there.
Of course, and the war is always the first answer for everything, must change, because otherwise we will really find ourselves one day totally lonely in the world. Even the United States, which supports Israel, still blood.
The strength of Israel isn't its alignment with foreign nations. Its strength in Israel is its alignment with God. This is where Levy gets it wrong. And Levy is supposed to have a little bit more connection because he's a Levy. Cohens and Levies have more connection to this concept that I'm talking about. Why don't you understand this?
And automatically, they must emphasize in you know that the United States is a full partner for everything that Israel is doing in the last year, including the massacre in Gaza. Even the United States will wake up one day, and then what?
So talk about the assassination of Nasrallah. You're talking to us from Tel Aviv.
Ridley said, don't be fearful. Don't worry about what the international community is saying. Get the job done, and lasting peace will ensue. We've done everything except what the Rebbe said to do, and it didn't work. So maybe we should stop the insanity and actually listen to the Rebbe and actually do what he said. Levy.
Response in Israel.
I'll give you a few examples. In one of the main channels of Israeli TV, a reporter live was distributing chocolates. That's the spirit in Israel. That's the spirit. Another important columnist wrote, we smashed him like a lizard. I mean, if this is the atmosphere, this is the mindset, this is the zeitgeist, so it will be very hard to change things, because we are getting down and down, lower and lower, believing more and more only in one thing, namely in killing and destructing.
So if you can talk.
You don't want to look like him. Trust me. All right? And a great way to not look like him is to go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and pay attention to the anti-aging protocol and follow it. Get the good night formula, because he doesn't look like he gets a good night's sleep. Get the good night formula, take it every night so you can get proper sleep, get into 3 cycles of REM sleep, get the deep sleep that you need, because through the 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep, you're consolidating memory, you're detoxifying your body, especially your central nervous system, and you're going to be well rested when you wake up in the morning. And you get adequate sleep regularly, you will age slower. It's that simple. And you reduce the chance of getting dementia later down the road. Because individuals that are sleep deprived have higher risk of dementia and higher risk of memory loss. All right. So, and the reason why is because of the buildup of the toxins. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the good night formula, because you don't want to look like a crazy liberal. I also have a powdered probiotic. We talked about the VeggieCap probiotics that are in my anti-aging boxes, but you can also get the powdered probiotic that I offer. This is the one I normally take. It has a scooper. You mix it with your food. Sometimes you see me eat it. You know, I eat my hummus sometimes during the recordings. So just mix it with your food. I take it in the afternoon, or you can mix it with water. It's important to take a probiotic, either in the VeggieCap form or in the powder form, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video. And another problem with liberals is that they are full of toxins. They're full of chemicals, and they're full of heavy metals, all right? He looks like he has a lot of heavy metals. So please go to my store and get the zeolite. This is a negatively charged molecule that soaks up positively charged toxins, chemicals, and heavy metals. What happens is it'll bind and it'll allow you to urinate the toxins, the chemicals, the heavy metals out in about 6 to 8 hours. You can take this every day, take a couple drops underneath your tongue and drink filtered water every day. This is the type of zeolite that you can take every day. Take a couple drops each day throughout the whole year, every day. Or what you can do is do a detox, once or twice a year, where you take a few drops, put it underneath your tongue, swallow with the filtered water, and you just use up the bottle. And do that once or twice a year. It's up to you, all right? But the type of zeolite that I have in my store, you can take year-round. So please, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite to take out the heavy metals, the toxins, and the chemicals, especially the forever chemicals, and get them out of your body. It's important to stop the ingestion of these chemicals, all right? So you can do that by filtering your water with Zero Water. It's a 5 filtration system. So drink filtered water. Make sure you stay away from fluoride in your water or even in your toothpaste. That's the reason why you need to go to my store and get the structural nano silver toothpaste, which has no fluoride. Fluoride makes you stupid. And make sure that you eat properly. Organic. Try to stop eating processed foods. Try to stop eating even at restaurants. Most restaurants are not very good for you, all right? And take a look at how you cook your food. Do you have cookware that might have forever chemicals? Get rid of them if they do. And when you stop ingesting these forever chemicals and you take zeolite to get whatever you have out of your body, it'll take some time, but it can be done. You are going to improve your endocrine system and you're going to improve your immune system. So that's really important. In addition, if you're on medication, please talk to your doctor, because zeolite might soak up some of that medication, so that your doctor might have to increase your dosage if you are going to be on zeolite for detoxification. So just be aware, if you're on medication, talk to your doctor first before going on zeolite, because you don't want to soak up your medication that you need. For the ones that are not on medication, take my advice. Forever chemicals will disrupt your endocrine system. Forever chemicals, toxins are going to disrupt your immune system. Go to my store and get the zeolite. Don't be a crazy liberal.
What Netanyahu's strategy is. And if he has one other than a military strategy, you have the tanks, Israeli tanks amassing on the border. Do you see a ground invasion?
Yeah, I think so.
At this point, what does this mean? Does he just want to deplete Hezbollah or completely wipe it out?
I can't see a scenario in which Israel is not going for a ground operation. First, it will be, as usual, presented as a very, very limited one, limited in time, limited in territory. We've been in those shows many times. And then it will get complicated, and then we'll have to widen it and extend the time that we stay there. As usual, we are getting into those things without having any clue, any idea how will we get out of it. Look at Israel in Gaza. Nobody has a clue how we are getting out of Gaza. Israel is going to repeat the same mistake with Lebanon, using the excuse or the passiveness of the world, which allows Israel to do now whatever it wants. Netanyahu, I think, is also now in euphoria after what is perceived in Israel as wonderful successes, James Bond successes, first with the pagers and with the walkie-talkies, and then with all the assassinations. This is perceived in Israel as an enormous success. So riding on this success, I guess nothing will stop Israel to get into a ground operation. And then, there will be a moment that a regional war might become a factor, might become a reality. And then what? When Iran might come in? I mean, all those risks seem what? Unimportant, unreal. And if Iran comes into the picture,
this is exactly what the Rebbe was saying, that you'll have these liberals in Israel that are not willing to get the job done. They're not willing to take risks because they don't believe, and they don't see this larger peaceful event that takes place with the rebuilding of the temple and this whole region becoming a flourishing area in this alignment between Ishmael and Jacob, right? And the positive part of Esau. But this alignment with Ishmael and Jacob, right, is going to create a very flourishing region. And it's going to involve the big players here are going to be Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Iran, this whole mindset of bombing for 1 year now, and only bombing, and refusing any kind of diplomacy. Remember, there were deals to release the hostages. Israel said no. Ceasefire, Israel said no. Lebanon ceasefire, Israel says no. This will not guarantee the security of Israel. Not to speak about the price the other side is paying, but even the security of Israel will not get better. We are now in a less good situation than 1 year ago. I can tell you that in Tel Aviv, we are more scared than we were 1 year ago.
The U.S.
That's only because they're closer to the northern front. And now it's time to take out Hezbollah. When you take out Hezbollah and the funding mechanism by Iran, Tel Aviv will be safe in the long run. See, the problem with Tel Aviv is it's kind of like New York of Israel, all right? And there's lots of liberals in New York that they don't want to do anything. They're very passive. They're passive. They want to overtax you, take away your rights, your constitutional rights, and they don't want to do anything else. The same thing in Tel Aviv. It's too liberal. All right. And what's going to happen is if they're afraid to act, Tel Aviv will be hurt. It will be hit by Hezbollah. If Israel and Tel Aviv moves forward and they aren't afraid, it will be protected. Now, if you want to use standard logic, you can't. Because what's going to happen is if you're not, what the Rebbe said was that if you move forward, you're not fearful, you will be protected. Don't worry, you will be protected. The moment you are fearful, the moment that you're not willing to move forward, you will be hit. So they're fearful because they're not willing to act. And this is the problem with the fucking ultra-liberal. Peace, give peace a chance. Ceasefire. Instead of getting it done. And then when things start to fall apart, because you didn't get to the root cause of solving the problem, this flares up again in 5 years, 10 years. And maybe Iran now has a nuclear weapon.
Secretary said Sunday it's increasing its air support capabilities in the Middle East, putting troops on heightened alert. ABC News' Martha Raddatz interviewed White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby on This Week Sunday and asked about the reports.
There's a contingency of additional forces in the region right now to help us with any possible contingencies that might come up. Dozens more. I mean, I know we have 40,000 troops in the region. I don't want to get into the exact numbers or who these guys are, but we did deploy some additional forces into the region. I would tell you that there's other options available as well in terms of adding and enhancing that force posture.
So you talked, Livy, about
at least Kirby pick the right tie and shirt. His collar and his tie work okay. He did that. He did a good job. But his foreign policy implementation is a complete fucking failure.
Regional war. Right before Netanyahu spoke at the UN, as you said, there was this discussion that the US and France was leading with Saudi Arabia and others and to have a ceasefire. And then Hassan Nasrallah is assassinated. Is this more than Israel engaging in a regional war, but trying to bring the US into it as well? Netanyahu is known as a close Trump ally and friend. How that would affect the U.S. elections as well.
They always going orange man bad, trying to frame it. Netanyahu, see, he hates Netanyahu, and now they're going to try on the American side. Trump's really bad too. This is all big cabal, and we got to have a ceasefire. And we don't want a Republican in office that just loves war. No.
Right before Netanyahu spoke at the United Nations, you have Israel saying Thursday it has secured another $8.7 billion in aid from the United States to support its ongoing military efforts. We're going to end with this question of whether Israel can continue what it does if the U.S. stopped the weapons flow.
But the U.S. does not stop the weapons. That's the point. The U.S. is saying one thing and acting exactly to the opposite direction. Can you believe that a major superpower is telling Israel to stop the war, and in the same time it is supplying it with weapons and bombs and ammunition? What is Israel supposed to do? Why not to shoot and to bomb, to continue to do this, if the Americans are supplying it in an unconditioned way? No conditions. So this hypocrisy must come to its end. The United States is supporting the war, is supporting Israel. The bombs that were falling on the bunker of Nasrallah were American bombs.
But they're dragging they're trying to slow down the momentum of Netanyahu's push. That's for sure. Are they sending weapons? Yes. See, the United States, look at it from the lens of the United States and Israel and the United States and Ukraine. Okay? The United States wants to send weapons to Ukraine and help push the momentum against against Putin. The U.S. with the Israelis, they're sending weapons, but they're trying to slow down the momentum for Netanyahu. All right. So there's a big distinction there. All right. The national security apparatus wants to take down Putin more than they want to take down Hezbollah. All right. Now I wonder why. I don't know. Maybe the Biden administration has people on the take with the whole Iran nuclear deal. Maybe. Most likely. But the thing is that the United States needs to send the weapons to Israel. And the United States needs to allow for the momentum to naturally take place so Israel can get the job done. And this is exactly what the Rebbe said to do in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s. And guess what? Israel capitulated and caved into the international pressure. Now, at that time, the United States was really worried about oil, an oil price. And now, in 2024, we have this problem. It's time to get the job done. You don't want your children to be fighting an even worse conflict over the horizon if this isn't solved. And solving it isn't going to be through some sort of rushed peace agreement.
The bombs that fall on Gaza are American bombs. The children who were killed, 17,000 of them in Gaza, were killed by American ammunition. And America, United States, cannot say that it is against killing children because it is a partner.
GETTR Levy, we want to thank you so much for being with us. Award-winning Israeli journalist, author, columnist for the newspaper Haaretz, also on their editorial board. We'll link to your latest pieces, including Israel's barbaric glee over Nasrallah's assassination.
This liberal is worried about the collateral damage in trying to root out the cancer that's the Islamic terrorist cancer that's in the Middle East. All right, she wants to stop that. She wants the cancer to continue because she thinks that collateral damage of any sort is unacceptable because the babies and the children are getting killed. But she promotes over 60 million abortions in the United States since the 1970s. I think it's 65 or 70 million. I think it's around 65 million. Abortions since the 1970s in the United States. How many children were killed because of a liberal policy? So stop giving me some sort of moral bullshit when it comes to collateral damage and trying to root out a major cancer in the world, which is Islamic terrorism. When they hold a policy, these liberals hold a policy of killing 65 million children in the womb since the 1970s in the United States. Now you add that up worldwide and it's a lot bigger number. So what is it? The life of a child important or not? Is it? Is it or not? I don't understand this problem that they have. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the olive leaf extract. This is something that you should take every day because it's a dual-purpose supplement. It helps to boost up your immune system and help with your cardiovascular system. NAD Plus helps to improve your energy levels, helps to repair DNA damage, and helps to protect your neurons. Nattokinase helps to get rid of blood clots and also helps bring down your LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. So it improves your cardiovascular health and your lipid profile. Ubiquinol, something you should be taking every day. It increases your energy levels. It's an antioxidant, and it also helps to improve neural health. Should be taking it every day. Ubiquinol is the active form for CoQ10. Vitamin K2, dual purpose supplement, helps to improve your bones and your joints, but also your cardiovascular system. NAC, something that you should be taking every day. It brings up your glutathione levels, very important to be able to soak up free radicals. It's synergistic with C60. C60 soaks up those free radicals a different way, but this is through the glutathione pathway. Very important. So take NAC every day. In addition, it also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney. And it also helps to calm anxiety. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the NAC. This is taking a playbook right out of the anti-aging and the longevity subculture. NAC is a daily supplement that many people in the anti-aging community take. I take it every day. I've added it to my protocol, and I'm glad to be able to provide this on my store so people can follow what I'm doing. That is the end of my transmission. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work by going to the store and purchasing the supplements. You can either get the anti-aging boxes or the individual supplements. But if you follow what I'm doing, you're going to slow down the aging process. You're going to improve your endocrine system. You're going to improve your immune system. Thank you for listening. And don't be a crazy liberal from Democracy Now! All right? I mean, they don't even look healthy. They don't look healthy on the exterior, but they're not healthy in the interior. All right? Pay attention. Don't be fearful. There's going to be a blessing that's coming. Be on the right side. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.